Alright guys, we're going to get started with EMI 402. So, for this one, if you see reading like this, so if you see so much reading here, do not read the passage first. Do not read first, right? Ever. So, you're going to go over the questions. So, writing the steps down here, read the question, circle key terms, then find key terms in passage. You're going to match them, those 3 steps. So, for number 1, which of the following is an important assumption of both scientist 1 and scientist 2? That means I'm going to look at scientist 1 and scientist 2 to figure out what they both say. Lightning strikes apply large amounts of energy and can drive chemical reactions. Every lightning strike produces a ball lightning, SiO2, H2O, and then look for these. So, ball lightning is a bright sphere of light that appears. A typical ball lightning exists, blah, blah, blah. Ball lightning is formed by a network of silicon-based. Ball lightning is formed by H2O. So, this one says Si. This one says H2O. Those are my key terms right here. But they say different things, so I can immediately cross off C and D. So now I'm between A and B. So, let's see. This one first says, ball lightning is a bright sphere that sometimes appears. So that way, we know that every lightning strike produces a ball lightning is wrong because this says sometimes. So sometimes does not equal every. Okay? So that means my answer automatically to number 1 is A. So that one would be a process of elimination. So when I'm doing my ACT corrections, I'm going to talk about the process of elimination. Okay, 2. Scientist 1, so that means I'm going to look at scientist 1. It most likely assumed which of the following in his model. SiO2 is naturally abundant. SiO and Si gases can remain in their gaseous form. Most bodies of water contain SiO2. SiO and Si gases readily dissolve in water. So we'll go back. Ball lightning is formed by a network. When lightning strikes the ground, it energizes SiO2 in the soil. So this comes from the soil. So that means that we're going to cross off things that don't have to deal with soil. Okay? So, this does not say soil. This does not say soil. This does not say soil. So we found SiO2 and we found soil. Then we found SiO2 and soil, right? So that's how we know the answer to number 2 is correct. So I put a box around the key terms and then box the answer, or box the passage part that matches. Okay, number 3. So this one really is just like, it's a reading test, right? So the science ones for EMI especially, this is a reading test. It's like pulling out the main ideas. Okay, which of the following is a key assumption of both scientist 1 and scientist 2? So again, I'm looking at scientist 1 and scientist 2. So you're going to circle the key terms here. I'm going to add a step in the answers. And then you match those. Okay? So, laboratory experiments cannot provide evidence. So, laboratory experiments, mechanism of ball lightning, application of nuclear energy, lightning strike conditions can be replicated, wind speeds are high. So, let's see. So solid SiO and Si nanoparticles linked together, blah, blah, blah. The result is this film slows the reaction. So, laboratory, I'm going to look for these because it says that laboratory in laboratory. That's in 2 answer choices. So because this occurs in 2 answer choices right here, laboratory, experiment, laboratory, that means that lab is my key term, and that means that the answer is going to be between A and C, because 2 answer choices mention the same thing. So now, laboratory experiments have successfully created nanoparticle chains, but have not been able to produce a full nanoparticle network. Now let's find laboratory here. Laboratory experiments have produced balls of ionized H2O by applying high-energy electrical pulses. However, so the recombination process is slowed. Now, laboratory experiments cannot provide evidence, or lightning strike conditions can be replicated. So this one says have successfully created, so that points to C. And this one says have produced. It doesn't say can. So it says that it didn't work as well, but it still replicated it, so the answer to number 3 is C. Because we did get evidence here, right? Like we created the nanoparticle change. It just wasn't 100%. All right, number 4. Scientist 1 most likely assumed that, so I'm going to look at scientist 1. This is number 4, is here. Okay. All SiO2 particles are between 10 and 100 nanometers. Heavy rain pulverizes SiO2. Ball lightning would be short-lived without some mechanism. Ball lightning cannot form in the absence of water. So now we're going to go through the answer choices and see what we think. All right, nanoparticles. Ball lightning is formed by nanoparticles roughly 10 to 100 nanometers in diameter. So that's not really an assumption, that's just a fact. Right, you can measure the size of those, that's a fact. All right, heavy rain, so let's see. The resulting structure releases heat, gives ball lightning. In the process, this film slows the reaction, which explains blah, blah, blah. Okay, so doesn't mention heavy rain at all. So no heavy rain. All right, ball lightning cannot form in the absence of water. Is there water? There's no water listed here at all. So it can't be C, no H2O, or it can't be D, so that means it has to be C. Now let's find our proof here. So SiO2 film forms on the surface. This film slows the reaction, which explains how ball lightning can persist for several seconds. So that is my proof for number 4. If I had a highlighter, I would highlight this whole thing, but instead I'm just going to underline it like I did. So my proof for number 4 is right there. So that's what I would quote in my ACT corrections. And number 5, a key underlying assumption of scientist 2. Number 5 is going to be an orange. So liquid H2O transforms into solid. H2O is formed whenever H plus and CO3 minus recombine. When lightning energizes, elements other than that are formed. So let's look at the color, or let's look at the reaction here. So this is just H and O, so that means we can cross off C because we saw in the reaction that that didn't happen. Okay, for a chemical reaction that requires energy to complete, its reverse reaction releases energy. Now let's see. Ball lightning is formed by ionized H2O when lightning strikes, blah, blah, blah. When they combine, energy is released in the form of light. The recombination is slowed by a hydration sphere. This explains why it lasts. Because heated gas rises if the ball lightning were formed from this. Ionized H2O is similar to that of air, which allows it to remain suspended. So it never talks about solid. This word is never mentioned, so we can cross off A. We don't see this at all, so we can cross off B because the key terms don't match. So I'm putting X's for number 5 around the key terms that didn't match. And then we already crossed off C because we know that there's nothing other than hydrogen or oxygen, so there's only H and O. So that means our answer is D. And now let's find our proof. Energy is released in the form of light. That is our proof that the answer is D. And that's the whole thing.